Thank you, Neeraj sir, for coming in and joining us on a Saturday afternoon. You know, uh, you've been with the banking world for a long time. You've been with the credit bureaus, you've been with the banks, you've been with the consultancy wings, you've been a part of the fintech ecosystem for long now. As a consumer, nowadays, when I open the newspaper, every day when I wake up, I see this one word everywhere: fraud. And when I go into even Google and I'm typing fintech or financial inclusion, again the word mule account, fraud, etc. keeps happening. As a consumer, I'm scared sometimes, that what are we going towards? Is the world of digital banking really safe? Is the world of financial inclusion even feasible? What would your thoughts be, when you, I'm sure you also wake up and see those same words every day. So what is your perspective, both as a consumer as well as a person from the fintech ecosystem? How do you react when you see such a word, and what's your thought?
So life teaches us a lot, and what we learn is what we call as perspective. So in the same headline, I read financial inclusion, and probably I miss the word fraud. So the way life happens, fraud is something we believe is happening to someone else. Mule account is something that we believe will never happen to us, and financial inclusion is something that we believe is happening despite us. बाहर कहीं कुछ हो रहा है, हम लोग कभी अखबार में पढ़ लेते हैं. But the reality is, if we turn back and see, and it's a very interesting point that you brought, and you started with newspapers. Let's try and see the newspaper headlines of couple of years back, say 5 years back, say 4 years back. And you will see the way life has changed for millions of people in the last 4-5 years. And let's take a couple of examples to see that. Financial inclusion 5 साल पहले, 7 साल पहले, I don't believe people believed in the word. ये कुछ था, कुछ लोग बोल रहे हैं, जैसे होता था ना गरीबी हटाओ, वैसे फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन लाओ, ये होता था. बट नाउ, एंड सेम वाज द मोमेंट ऑफ यूपीआई. आई रिमेंबर बीइंग, आई एग्जैक्टली रिमेंबर जब मैंने ये क्यूआर कोड के थ्रू पेमेंट का कॉन्सेप्ट सुना था. आई हैड सीन अ डेमो एंड आई रिमेंबर वेयर आई वाज, एंड आई बिलीव्ड इट्स नॉट गोना वर्क. आज टर्न बैक एंड सी, I have paid the salary to my driver right now while I was driving from my home to here via a UPI QR code. He was very happy to accept the full amount via UPI QR code. Not once did he say कि मेरे को cash दे दीजिए, मेरे पास account नहीं है, मैं कहाँ से निकालूंगा. The entire ecosystem worked, and the beauty of the ecosystem is कोई सवाल नहीं था. That means the ecosystem is very well accepted in the society. Similarly, your worldview about seeing the frauds and ecosystem में risk is again something I heard yesterday happening to some people on the building, some people and from who work with us. किसी को एक fraud SMS आया and money was fished out, right? So it happens to people around us. We choose to believe it will never happen to us, and therefore we believe that whoever has been a victim should have been more educated, should have been more vigilant. That's where the role of people like you in the ecosystem comes. Vigilance is a collective responsibility. One leak sinks the entire ship. We believe the link is not in my cabin, it's not impacting us, and that's where the need for people like you, who see the fraud in the same newspaper headline, you see what a mule account is, talk to more people about it, and therefore the collective responsibility is to make the ecosystem safer. And I can dwell on it and on it and on it, and how data is a big ingredient in plugging that hole. More importantly, a fraudster is someone like you and me. A fraudster is someone probably more educated than you and me, because he's reading patterns day in and day out. He's doing a damn good job. So therefore we need information, we need data points, and we need a lot of experience in understanding these situations to plug the hole. And most importantly, we need evangelism in the system. This financial inclusion didn't happen on its own. There was a lot of government support, there was a lot of evangelism, and from the biggest fintech apps that are the new normals today, if they had not evangelized, they took the challenge to evangelize, and there is a capital evangelism. However, in the same fraud space, that the role that you are playing, which is evangelizing this.
I think fantastic start, and I think I'm already picked up 5 to 6 things that have just come to my mind based on what you said. But I'll keep on the key words, to go back to what you said, right? I like the positivity with which you said. I read this in the same newspaper, the idea of financial inclusion and how that has become a reality, how UPI transactions have changed. You've been a part of this change. You've been at the heart of it. You've worked with everyone in this ecosystem. When we look at, and you also talked about evangelism, right, and the need for evangelists to come in and bring in this change, right? As we talk about millions of Indians still who are going to be a part of this financial inclusion drive, and leaders in the banking system who are going to take that risk in terms of being able to expand their financial services or their quality of services to a larger set of audience. Where do you think the line is drawn between growth and risk? Because on one hand, you have that aspiration, you have that target of sales, you have that idea of making it to the every customer out there, and on the other hand, you have the risk, where you have the function of economic loss, reputation, safety, and as a bank, you're always the custodian of money at the end. Where do you draw the line as a banker between growth and between risk?
Age teaches me, and experience makes me more aware that without controlling risk, growth is probably for a quarter. However, people are in different phases of their corporate lives, of their corporate's life, and therefore the accidents that we hear about sometimes happen. I have been part of accidents, and I choose to believe that I have learned from it to say that when you write the first course of growth is the time that the one section of that page has to be about responsible growth. And responsible growth means, while I'm touching 1 million in this quarter, how do I touch 100 million in the next few quarters? And that will happen if you have a sharp eye, a keen view on the risks associated. Now, these risks can be of different types, and it's not only about the industry that we represent. Supposing we go back to a very traditional industry, the risks play there as well. The types will be different, but if you keep going back and seeing, the broad categories remain the same. The broad categories: somebody is defrauding you, somebody is using or misrepresenting you, and somebody using your data, your ecosystem to take competitive advantage in a positive manner and create a competition for you, or in a complete negative manner where they destroy reputations, they destroy livelihoods. So these 3-4 concerns have stayed in the industry through the ages. So what we are seeing, and we believe this is the best thing to happen to us or this is the worst thing to happen to us, if we look around, we see the same pattern being repeated over and over and over again. I read history a lot. So recently I picked up a book from the airport, and very interesting thing, I will not name the author, but they said that the way empires are created, so the third generation ruler will be the mightiest in that particular empire, and keep going back and seeing every empire, you will see the same pattern, whether it was the Mauryas, whether it was the Cholas, and then complacency sets in, and the last few are always overlapping with the next guy who comes in. So if I say, if you don't look at industry, if you look at the age of empires as well, the pattern has played out, because while you are aware of the risks, you choose to believe ये मेरे साथ नहीं होने वाला है. Coming back to the first point I was saying, the responsible growth means that you look around, means that you believe that it can happen to me someday, Not only learn from your industry, learn from other industries, because the pattern जो चोरी का होता है, जो गलत काम करने का होता है, remains exactly the same. So lot of data points are available. Importance is to the way we look at the same data point and underlying patterns which are there.
Very interesting. And let me go back to what you said, right? You talked about history and you talked about the third empire, right? The third generation of the empire being the strongest and then the decline. Where are we in the fintech or the financial ecosystem today? Are we at the first generation, second, third, or are we at fifth? What's your reading of where we are as an ecosystem? Have we peaked, or is there a space to go?
I don't think so. I think every day, if people are still finding new ideas, if people are still finding new ways to solve the same problem, I think we are probably the first one, right? The third generation of us probably is actually going to be another couple of decades away. But I think the trend is right. People now are looking at different problems in the value chain. Earlier on, and it's not even one full decade of this blooming to happen. Earlier on, people were looking only at processing payments. Then the challenge of scale started happening. Then came the point of efficiency in processing payments. Not effectiveness, efficiency in processing payments. That's what we are seeing now is what do you want to process a payment for? So if you notice, we are at a very, in the one sentence, we are in the first few words in the sentence. And most interesting is, while there are massive people and very interesting people on the payment side, there are very interesting people now talking about the risks while processing payments. So here also the nuance will develop on why these risks will impact you. And what we are doing here today is trying to educate the larger population that do not think that if it has not happened to you and your family, it is not going to impact the ecosystem and therefore it will come back to bite you. हम वही करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. This is where the evangelism is coming. कि अगर आपके साथ नहीं हुआ, आपके ड्राइवर के साथ नहीं हुआ, आपकी फैमिली में किसी के साथ नहीं हुआ, पर इकोसिस्टम में इम्पैक्ट हुआ तो अल्टीमेटली आपके साथ होएगा. सो पीपल हैव टू मोटिवेशंस, राइट? कि मेरे साथ कुछ बुरा ना हो, which is immediately losing money. So a fraud has the potential of not just impacting you at the moment, impacting the ecosystem that your earning ability comes down. This is the most important point that probably we are trying to evangelize. कि आपने जाने दिया, आपने ecosystem में मदद नहीं की to make it stronger, more watertight. The problem is it will impact the ecosystem so much that your earning potential, the multiples as you guys talk about, will get impacted. Therefore, step up today.
Interesting.
Today.